Hey guys, what's up? My name is Gabe and this is Games with Gabe, and this is another episode on ImGui. Now, you may be wondering why we're doing another episode on ImGui, and that is because SpaiR is updating the repository and has a lot more features in it, so we're going to look at how to integrate the newest version. We're just going to build this, which is basically you click on a button and then you can press this and it stops the button. So very simple ImGui functionality, but it shows you how to integrate it into your Java project. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to want to do is create a new IntelliJ project or Eclipse or whatever IDE you are using. I'm going to use Gradle and Java, so I will do that, and then I will just hit next right here. Then we want to give it an artifact ID, which is basically what the project is called. I'll call this ImGui integration, and then I'm going to hit next. And then I want to choose where it is. It's in a good place for me. C dev Java ImGui integration. I'll hit finish, and you should be presented with just an empty window, sort of like this. Now, the next thing we're going to want to do is just build our project, and make sure you have Java 8 installed at least too, because ImGui does require that. I'm going to create a main class in here. We're just going to make everything run real quick. So we'll create a static void main function, which takes in the string array and then just prints out hello world, because that's the simplest thing to do. Hit Shift F10. Actually, that's not going to work. Hit run and then hit run again, and then we'll hit main, which should automatically build a configuration for us. And if you look down here, you see that it printed hello world. Cool. So we have a Java project up and running. Next thing we want to do is actually get ImGui working. So this is SpaiR ImGui, and the commit I am on, which I will have linked in the description as well, is this commit right here, do8-2da7. So it is the latest one at this time. What we're going to do is we're going to scroll down, and you'll see that there is a Gradle import here, but I tried this and it wasn't working for me. So instead, we're just going to import the raw jars and DLLs, which should work fine too. And it's always good to know how to fall back to that if you need to. So we'll click on the raw jar, and then he says go to the release page. So I'll open that up. Version 1.81.0 is the latest one for me. So this is the one I will be downloading. I'll go ahead and download all these jars. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where we created this, which was ImGui integration right here. Then I'm going to create a new folder, call this libs. This is where we're going to put all our external jars and DLLs. And then I'm just going to save this as it is here, and it renamed it here. So I'm just going to fix that. And then if you hit it again, if your machine is like mine, then we should be able to just hit save. I'm going to do that for all the jars. Then we'll get to the DLLs, and if you are not on Windows, don't download the DLLs. Instead, download the SO if you're on Linux and the dilib if you're on Mac. I believe that's what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and install these DLLs and put them in the same exact folders. Make sure to get these two jars as well. Not sure how much of them you actually need, but it is good to have everything that he has here, just that you're not missing anything. Okay. And that should be good. So once you have all of those installed, we'll go into IntelliJ again, and we want to actually import these. So we'll go to build.gradle. I'm going to remove this because I really don't care about that. And then we're going to go ahead and say that we want to do for our ImGui files, we want to tell it where to find all of them. So we'll say implementation, file tree, libs. So it's in the libs directory is what we're telling it there. We're going to say include anything that ends in a .jar extension. So this will get all of our jars, but this will not get our DLLs. To get our DLLs in there, we have to go up to run and hit the edit configurations. And we basically, if you're compiling this manually, you could provide this switch when you compile your program. But if you're in Eclipse or something, you have to go wherever it allows you to create, pass in compiler switches. And then right here, we want to do java.library.path equals, and then we'll say libs, and this tells it look for any DLLs in this folder, and you have to have them in the root of the folder, otherwise it will not find them. And then just hit OK, which is a blue button that's kind of hidden on my screen, and that should do that. Hit import changes down here. If you didn't, you should see a little Gradle symbol over here that you can click on, and then you can hit import over there too, or refresh. Last thing we need to do is we need to make sure we get all of our LWJGL dependencies as well. So I'm going to go to the LWJGL site, hit download, hit customize, get the very basics. We'll do Gradle. If you want to do the dependencies, you can do exactly what we did and just get a zip bundle instead, and it's the same exact process. I'm going to hit minimal OpenGL, get rid of async. I don't need that. Get rid of OpenAL and get rid of STB. So that leaves us with this. So I'll copy all of that, paste it into here, and I'll just type in LWJGL. Then we'll go back up there and we will copy these extensions just so that we have them as well. Paste that into there. Then we should be able to hit import changes once again. That should import all of those changes. And now we should be able to do SpaiR's example. So if we look into his README, you can see that he has an example up here of a simple application. So he's made it really easy to create a whole new application using ImGui if you don't want to worry about doing all the low-level stuff. We'll look at both ways because I do worry about the low-level stuff, but we can simply do this. So I'm just going to literally copy this, and then we're going to hit extends application inside of our code. So I'm going to paste it over here, and then inside here I'm going to say this is extends application, and then hit Alt Enter, import class, and we're going to import it from imgui.app, which is the one we want. Then we want to be able to import this as well. So we'll import that from ImGui binding, and don't do internal. I think we should be fine just doing that one. Then if you hit Shift F10, we should get a window with ImGui. So really simple to get it set up using this. We don't have to worry about window management or anything, which is really cool. And then you can of course put whatever you want inside this process function, and it will create whatever ImGui functions you put in there. But if you're like me, this isn't good enough because a lot of times you need to handle a lot of window management and stuff yourself. So we will go ahead and see how to do that. So let's go into here and we'll create a new class called window.java. Now, if you want to know where I found all this code, most of it looks like, so I took it from here, but it looks like SpaiR also took this from the LWJGL site. But basically, if you just go into here and we go into imgui-app, and then you go into source, all that stuff, then you go into window.java. This is where I took most of this code from. And you can see that he has an example, and a lot of it follows what LWJGL does too, because you need to initialize GLFW and everything, which is important. So yeah, but basically, let's go ahead and look at what we need to do. So you'll notice that the first two things, if we copy paste, it's a little bit easier. We just need to get this stuff. So let's copy that. We will paste it into here. This will just get us ImGui implementation for GLFW and GL3. They have other implementations for Vulkan and stuff. I don't know if SpaiR provides those, but I don't even know if you can. Well, I think you can use Vulkan maybe, but yeah, GLFW GL3 should be fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and just say private int, or actually no, long window pointer, and this will just be the window pointer, and we'll leave that uninitialized for now. And then we're going to create a public constructor because we're going to add to this afterwards, because we will divulge from what he does a little bit, but this should be good. Then we're going to create an initialization function. So we'll say public void init. This will init the window. This will init ImGui, which we'll create in a second. And then it will call ImGui GL3.init. And we will need to pass it the GLSL version. And before we do that, we should do ImGui GLFW.init. And we will need to pass in the window pointer. And install callbacks, if you do true, this will automatically install the callbacks for ImGui. And then you can sort of override these to call back into your application. That's a little bit more complicated. We won't look too much into that. I'm just going to set this to true for this tutorial. We will, of course, need a destroy method as well. So we'll create that real quick. And the destroy method will just call ImGui GL3.dispose. ImGui GLFW.dispose. ImGui.destroy context. And then we're going to do callbacks.destroy, or GLFW free callbacks. We'll pass it the window pointer, whatever that is. And then we will go GLFW destroy window pointer. And we need to import that, hit Alt Enter, should import that. And then we'll do GLFW terminate. I hesitate to put these destroy methods. Usually it's not important because the OS will reclaim any memory that these things have taken. And if we're destroying it, we're probably closing our application anyways. Now, there are certain cases where when you destroy this, you're creating a new application and it is important that you free up all this memory. But if you're not, then I wouldn't worry about destroying because the OS will reclaim that anyways, and it can sometimes make your application take forever to just close, which could be annoying. Okay, so let's create the init window function. So we'll say private void init window. Most of this code is from LWJGL.org. We can actually take a look at that. So if we go to LWJGL up here and we go to the get started page, you can see that they have a lot of this stuff that is very similar to what we were just doing. You could do this as well if you really wanted to. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this stuff because we will need this as well. Paste it into there. Hit Alt to enter for this guy. We'll import it statically. And then instead of throwing a illegal state exception, because that's kind of annoying because then you have to catch the exception and all that stuff, we'll just say system.out.println, and then we'll just do that. And then we'll say system.exit -1, which I guess exceptions are better, but you know, this works too. And then we're going to set the GLSL version. I'm just going to set it manually to hash version 130. And if you set it to version 130, there is a matching GL version you need to use. So if you say GLSL version 2 GL and just Google that, we can look at the OpenGL shading language. And right here, versions, you see this? We've got all these different versions. So it says hash version 110, 120, 130. This is the one we're using, which means we must use OpenGL version 3.0 and we must use GLSL version 1.30.10. So that's how we know which versions to match up. We're using this version. So we'll say GLFW window hint, GLFW context version major is 3, and then GLFW window hint, GLFW context version minor is 0, right? We're using 130, so we need to use 3.0, which is exactly what this says. 130, we use 3.0. And if you were using 140, you would use 3.1. So you would then just change this to 1 and then change your values up there. Anyways, let's continue. We'll say GLFW window hint, GLFW visible, GLFW false. So this is basically going to say just wait until we finish creating the window until you show it. And then we'll actually create the window. So we'll say window pointer equals GLFW create window. I'm just going to do 1920 by 1080. And I'm just going to say title is my window. You can, of course, customize all these to whatever you want. We'll use null, import that from, we want to go from the memory. Where is it? Oh, memory util.null. That's the one we want to use. That should be good. Then we'll say if window pointer equals null, then we want to system.out.println unable to create window, and then we'll system.exit -1, which should be good. So we try to create the window. If we fail, we log the error and we leave. Then we'll say GLFW make context current window pointer. This is all standard GLFW stuff, just getting a window up and running. Swap interval, we're going to set to 1, so we want vsync on, is what that's saying. GLFW show window pointer. So we set it to false up here, which means we don't want to show it. We go through, we initialize it and everything. Then once it's done initializing, we say, okay, now you can show it. And that's what we're doing there. Then we'll say gl.create capabilities, which basically gives us all the OpenGL functions. You forget this, you cannot use OpenGL. So important that you do that. Anyways, we've got that done. Let's make a private void init ImGui so that we get that next function done. This one's really easy. ImGui.create context. Nice. We're done there. Then we'll make a public void run method. This will just be to run our window. We'll say while not GLFW show window should close, window pointer. Once again, straight from LWJGL's site. Nothing fancy here. We'll clear the color. So we'll say GL clear color. I'll do 0.1F, 0.09F, 0.1F, 1.0F, which is like a nice dark color, not too dark, not too bright. And we'll say GL clear, and we want to clear the color buffer bit because we don't have a depth buffer. We don't care about that stuff. We just want to clear the color buffer bit. So we'll import those constants, import this one as well. Right there. Then we'll say ImGui GLFW.newFrame. We'll say ImGui.newFrame. This is just to tell ImGui, hey, we are starting a new frame. And then we will say ImGui.render. And anything between these two calls, any ImGui code between these two calls, will basically create ImGui stuff, and then it will render when we hit that render call. Then we'll say ImGui GL3 dot render draw data. This will tell it to render it to the actual window. ImGui dot get draw data tells it what stuff we're trying to draw. And then I'm just going to copy this next bit from SpaiR's website. So if we just go back into here, I think we are sort of, let's see. We are in end frame now. Okay, so this is basically what he does when you end the frame. Let's just copy all that because that's what we need. Paste it. We should be good. And then we'll do a window pointer. So this is cool too. This is another update he's done. We basically have viewports now, which means that you can drag windows outside of the window. We'll see what that means in just a second. Okay, so right now we don't have a good way to actually render anything in here. So let's go ahead and create a new class. We'll just call this ImGui layer. You could call it whatever you want. Really doesn't matter. And we're just going to create a public void ImGui function in here. Very simple. And then inside window, we will go ahead and say we need to take in an ImGui layer when you create this. We'll just call that layer. And we'll say private ImGui layer. ImGui layer. And then this will just say ImGui layer equals layer. And you don't even need an object for this. But since we're in Java, we need an object for this, okay? We just need to call some functions, but we can't really do that in Java. You could, it's just not good practice. Anyways, let's go ahead and we will, in the middle of here, right, where it actually matters, we'll say ImGui layer dot ImGui. So between these two calls, we call all of our ImGui stuff, which happens to live inside of here, so we can consolidate it, make it nice and easy to read. So we'll just create a ImGui.begin. So this will create a window, cool window. Hit Alt Enter to import that. And then every ImGui begin must be followed by an end because it's a stack. So we need to push it and then we need to pop it from that stack. Then we'll say if ImGui.button, I am a button. And then we'll say show text equals true. Let's go up here and we'll say private boolean show text equals false. And then down here, we can say if show text, ImGui.text, some text. Or actually, we could say you clicked a button. And then we can say if ImGui.button, stop showing text, then show text equals false. And let's put these on the same line too. So we'll say ImGui.same line. Okay, so this is very basic ImGui code. I'm not going to go into how ImGui works because that's beyond the scope of this tutorial. But we basically create a couple buttons. We say, hey, this is a button on the first line. Then on the next line, we basically say, if the button was pressed, we'll show some text. And then on that same line, we'll show a button next to it to stop showing the text. Very simple. Nothing too complicated there. Let's go into here. We'll create a new class. Call this better main because I like having low level control. It's not necessarily better than the other main or anything. We'll say public static void main string args. And then we'll say window equals a new window. We need to pass it an ImGui layer. So we'll just say new ImGui layer because it really doesn't matter. And then we'll say window.init, window.run, window.destroy, which should do everything we need. Now, if you try and run this, you're going to get an error. If we hit Shift F10, it's going to be like, oh, wait, actually, no, we won't get an error. We'll get the old thing, which is not what we want. So comment this out. Then if we run this, we'll get an error. Main method not found, that's fine. Just hit edit configurations. We need to tell IntelliJ that we've basically switched files that we're using. So we'll just hit this up here and then we'll hit better main. So now our main class is inside better main. It knows what to do now. Hit Shift F10. It should use the new class. There we go. We get our window. We get this. And if you hit that button, it says you clicked a button, stop showing text. It disappears. Now, that thing I said, where we can drag the window outside. Well, I must have been mistaken because we probably did not set that up properly. Let's go into window and actually try to do this. So it says if we have this flag, then it will do this stuff. Let's actually set this flag to see what it does. Well, now I need to take you guys here. So this is Dear ImGui. I'll have a link in this in the description as well. This is where you can go to see how to actually use it. It's in C++, but you can easily translate it to the Java code. So basically, he has this ImGui demo.cpp, which has a bunch of stuff, and it's very easy to go through here and see how to use ImGui. So I'm going to go and look for initializing the config for the viewports, which just so happens to be in a different branch. So if it is in a different branch, you can go through here, and I think it might be in the docking branch, the viewports. I can't remember completely, but then if you go into ImGui demo.cpp, you can once again look for these things. I'll say viewports. Yep, so it looks like they have viewports in here. Let's go ahead and look for where we can set this. Okay, and I sort of just forgot how to do configuration. If you look at here, this sort of gives us a little hint on how to set configuration flags. So it says if you set io.config flags here, we can get the io by doing this. So let's go ahead and try this out. We will say, instead of this, ImGui io equals ImGui.get io. Then we'll say io.config flags, or add config flags, I guess in this case. And we're going to say ImGui.config flags dot viewports. So we should enable viewports by doing this. And if we, there we go. Okay, so I know a lot of you requested this feature in the old ImGui, but he hadn't implemented it yet. Look, we can drag this window straight off the screen, which is really cool. What's happening here is ImGui is doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. It's using GLFW to create a whole new window context whenever you drag it. Now this is rendering in a whole new window, and then once we drag it back into the main window, it closes the old window and adds this back to the main window. So pretty cool stuff. There's a lot of other features that we can use. Look through SpaiR ImGui to see what bindings he supports, because that will be important to find out first. So if you just look through his README, he has a lot of information on which features he has enabled. So basically we have all the public APIs implemented. We have multi-viewports, we have docking, we have the free type render, we have extensions. So really cool stuff. You can do all of this stuff with it. He even has the node editor, which is really cool if you want to mess around with that. But yeah, this is integrating the latest SpaiR ImGui branch. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please hit like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode in the game engine where we will be upgrading to this. And then we will be using this new upgraded version to start implementing some more editor features inside of our engine, right? Because we want to be able to add user components and all sorts of extra stuff. So stay tuned for that episode, and I will see you guys then. Thanks. See ya.